I'm David White. I'm from the ISOM, Information Systems and Operations Management Department. I have been interested in technology and teaching for a long time, and technology is what I do. And I found a tool which is used for other purposes, which I've applied to teaching in my courses. And what this tool does, it's called Trello. It's what's called a Kanban board, which is used by all sorts of people who want to get stuff done. I mean, it's a really simple principle. You basically make lists and then you shift tasks from one list to the other, which I'll demonstrate. And the intention is to try to move away from centralized LMSs and those sort of things, which you need, which are important, etc. But there are other aspects which we can hopefully bring down onto a more personal learning environment. So I use this particularly for a systems design course, which is a specific type of course. We do a lot of group work, and also, of course, the students do individual work. So I'll just show you what this Kanban board type thing looks like. Very simply, so I've got there a list of tasks, a list of things which I'm going to cover for you. Well, I guess I should have put that one in doing, and then I could have moved it to done. That's Trello, basically. You can create lists of tasks, you can create lists of things, you can move them from one state to another, and use it as a repository for getting work done. Now, people like myself who develop software love this environment. It's absolutely amazing to work with. It's so simple. It's much simpler than standard sort of project management software. It does just get things done. So first of all, I'm going to go out to all my boards, which is here. You can see up the top I've got my favorite boards, and I've got one out here on the right, Infosys 320, which is my systems design class. And down below in this big patch is a whole lot of individual students' boards. Every student in my class has to create a board. They have to name it in a certain way so everything sorts into a nice order. That's always a little bit of a struggle, but they get there. So I'm just going to go into my board, which is my course board here, which is sort of what people would use Canvas for as well, and I also use Canvas. However, you can see that I've got students to do, students doing, students should be done. So I have lots of little tasks. I want them to install a piece of software, I want them to do a particular exercise, and so I have this list of to-dos. The ones they're focused on are the ones they should be doing now. The ones they should be really focused on are the ones they should be done, which they haven't done. Okay, so as I move these across and I put dates on some of them don't have dates. They can just do them when they want to, but they should get done. Sort of drive the course along at a micro rather than this is the assessment you have to hand in on this particular date. Okay, and then across this board I also have all my other stuff. I have lists of tools that we're using, and then I have all the learning objectives and that sort of stuff here as well. I have it here as well as in Canvas. I'm not quite sure of the value of having it here, but I just put it here anyway. So that's the course board, which we use for other things as well, but it's not time to go into it. So I'm going to show you a students board. And of course I've picked a good student that's done all the things that they should have done and didn't do all the things they ought not to have done, hopefully. But this guy is very active. You can see he's got his group work organised. He's working on that. He's done a peer review for me. He's done an about me, a little thing about what he does. He's collected information from the lectures. Okay, so within the lectures, I try to run them as activities, so the students have to do stuff. And when they do stuff, they have to take a screenshot of what they've done and put it up into the board. Okay, so I can see that they've actually, A, I can see they've been at the lecture, and B, I can see what they did, what they attempted to do, what little exercise they tried to actually do. Okay, And the same for labs. Like in labs, sometimes we say at each step in the lab, you take a screenshot of your work. All of our labs are on computers, funnily enough, and they have to take a screenshot of their work and paste it up there so we can then monitor how people are getting on through the lab, see what their work looks like, and that they're actually doing it. So when they come and say, I can't understand this, and they haven't put anything up from the lab, then maybe they were doing Facebook in the lab or something like that. Okay, so on an individual level, it's a good record. Now, of course, with large classes, it's not going to work. Like my class at the moment is around 50, 60, something like that, so it's sort of manageable. But where it becomes really powerful, and I really love it, is when I come down to, here's a group board. Once again, I chose a good group, okay? So the students set these boards up themselves. I don't have to set them up. They set them up, they go to Trello, it's all free, and then they share it with me. Okay, so there's no work on my behalf of actually administering any of this stuff. These things just appear for me when they've done it. So up in here, they're doing a very exciting project at the moment, which is called Enhancing the Museum Experience. They're working on applying information technology to make the museum better, and the museum is very heavily engaged in this, and so that's why there's pictures of skulls. It's actually a 3D skull that they can put into their projects. And so you can see over here, here's all the things that this group is doing. Here's all the members, here's all the to-dos, and I encourage them to have a very long to-do list, and things they're doing, things they've done. They've done a visit to the museum, they've taken pictures in the museum, and here's all the things they're reflecting on, and here's their meeting minutes. And so I can see that they've actually written minutes, they've actually taken things down, and they're bringing out action items into that to-do list, and so the project goes on. So when I come to mark this project, I mark it directly off this board, and of course any artifacts and things that they produce along the way. So it's everything's there, we can see everything has happened. Now in managing like peer review, I also make each member record, each member of the group record in their own board what they've done, what their contribution is. So when we get the peer reviews in, I can see each task that each student has undertaken and completed, and then they have to paste it back, that picture of what they've done, into the group space. Okay, so they say in their individual space to me, this is what I've done, but I make them paste it back into the group space because then they can't tell lies. Okay, okay, so they've shared that. So that's just about it, really. It's just a way of creating lists, of managing lists, and I find it's also a good way of teaching some sort of discipline in how to do this sort of work. Okay, so I'll just actually before I go back, any questions at this point? Yes.
Because it's student meetings, so they go and create their own
Yep.
pages.
Yep.
And do you provide guidelines as to what you want in there, or?
Absolutely. I say you have to have various of these lists. Okay, so they have to have a meeting minutes list. They have to have all of these lists, but they can also create. Okay, these guys haven't. They're basically keeping all the resources in here, but they might have a list of tools that they're going to use. It's up to them, really. But certainly in the final deliverable of the project, there's going to be certain categories they have to do. So at the moment, we're just like 3 weeks into this project, and so this will get much bigger as time goes on. Yep. But certainly guidance. Yep. Anyone else? Yes.
Where did the name Kenzen? Was it the person who?
It's a Japanese technique, I think, didn't it? Does anyone know? People in Japanese factories worked out that all you had to do was write down lists of things you had to do and move it from one to the other. And if you did that regularly, you get things done.
Have you embedded it into Canvas in terms of using the LCI tool?
No, that's way beyond my technical ability. Andrew. I have to ask you how to.
I don't play with that, and you can actually, I think you can set up a default board for your students as an assignment, and then when they click through it all.
Okay, all right, I'll talk to you. Great, thanks. Integration, yes.
I think it's great for the project work for students. But when you get a bigger project, you get a lot of these notes. How do you manage them? How do you manage those? You know, do you do different folders? And there are so many of them on display.
I don't really know if I can answer that. I mean, the biggest project that I've worked it with is with 2 student developers over the last 6 months. And we used this, we had a to-do list, like I was the chief of the to-do list, but anyone could put stuff onto it. I would order the to-do list into priority order continuously, and then they would put their names onto tasks they wanted to do. You can put your name onto it. Then they would move it across, And we also tie this up to another tool called Slack, which Trello will send messages out to Slack to say when the cards have moved. And on the night before, I had a project meeting with these guys once a week. In the evening, suddenly my computer would be going like, ding, 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 ding. I say to my wife, they're working. And then suddenly in Slack, a new build of this piece of software would appear. And I'd go like, wow, download it, test it, and be ready for the meeting the next day. So, yeah.
But when you finish one project, are you archive them and build new one?
You can copy them like,
To whatever.
like I can take a copy of any of these student boards. I do that all the time if I want to keep a snapshot, yeah. And the course board, of course, is copied from semester to semester.
David, we had a comment in an earlier presentation this morning about students hating group work. So how do students get on in this environment?
They hate it, but they have to do it. Well, as part of our brief is we're teaching them to be software systems developers. We're teaching them we have to do it. In ISOM, we sort of limit it. We used to do just about in every course, but we chop that down more and more. But in this course, that's it. You do it.
Any sense on what kind of devices students are accessing Trello on? Are they using desktop computers or smartphones, iPads?
Well, you can use anything because it's web-based and there's also apps. I personally use mainly a bigger tablet than a smaller tablet because I need the space and I need to be able to see stuff. But you can certainly as far as creating the to-do list, then I create that on my phone very often for multiple projects because I can just go think and then write onto my phone. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, so I'll just pop up a couple of these others. I'll just make a comment about the usage. So the students, I've been using it for about 2 years. I think I've probably covered most of this. You can put video, images, anything really, files, anything into Trello. I've covered most of that. I would just make a point that one thing I really like is when I get delivered a piece of work. Imagine if this was a piece of student work that I had delivered, okay, onto the board. And I will say to my students, if you want me to look at your work, you put it onto your board and then send me an email saying, please go and look at my work with a link to where it is. And so I may get an image. I do a lot of user interface design commenting on that. And so I might get this here, and so it pops up. And my method of marking off really, where's that going? Okay, get a new one here. Okay, so I just take a snapshot of that. Okay, I would then annotate it. Okay, I would then copy it. I would then come back to the board, close that, and come back to here, come to here, and paste it. Okay, so I've now pasted my annotation of their work directly onto their board. They can see it, and that's the end of it. So you can see it appearing up there as the first image item on that card, that piece of squiggle. Okay, I'm just going to show you like some other important aspects. Well, one thing which I want in every tool that I ever use is to be able to get data out of it. Okay, And with Trello, we can get data out of it. We can connect the data through various forms through, a bit later I'll show you an API. And so as an exercise, like having all of this data is all well and good, but as a teacher, I want to be able to see the student who hasn't delivered a certain number of cards onto a board or hasn't got a list there. Like the real value of it will be if I can query that data. So first thing is we can get the data, we can create, this is a design, not a reality, but you can imagine these students are all working on this thing called landscape analysis. There's the people in the class, and here are their contributions to that over time, over a timeline. Okay, so that could be one. I've got another one here which is taken from actual data from a class. This one here, which I could only find a paper copy of it this morning, so it's a bit shaky. So the actual data, if you look at the vertical line graph, is a graph of the number of cards that each student had contributed at the time I took the snapshot. That's from an actual Excel spreadsheet. And then down the bottom, that's actually a list of groups, and once again, an analysis of contribution, and then I've got all the little photos along the bottom, and then between, I can actually see from the green lines, the people who are in a particular group. Okay, so this is moving towards actually making use of the information that's being gathered by Trello. So if anyone's got some funds for a bit of sort of just development research, we could do with them to make this tool a lot better. Okay, so I'll stop there. So any other questions?
You've got a rather fresh device, haven't you?
It's very primitive, it's just a computer, actually. It's the best computer I've ever had in my life, which has been quite long. It's a Surface, Microsoft Surface computer, and yeah.
So does that give you an advantage of using a tool like this?
Well, it gives me a pen.
So it's a really only pen, isn't it? So in your iPad would
Well, a pen is,
give you the same.
if you look at the difference between a finger and a pen, there was a reason that mankind invented the pen. And Steve Jobs was not right when he said no tablet needs a pen. He was wrong.
Even Apple acknowledged that with a pencil.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, thank you.